For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
Good evening and welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of October 7th, 2019. Call the order, please.
Hess?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Nielsen?
Here.
Nowak?
Here.
And Walgora.
Here. Please rise to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, modifications to the agenda this evening. I'd like to add a closed session to discuss city manager negotiations, if you will, please.
So moved.
Second.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
And Walgora.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Any other modifications tonight? Approval of the minutes, regular and closed sessions of September 16th, 2019. Any changes or issues? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. If you'd like to do so, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records. This will be the only time during tonight's meeting you're allowed to address council. All right. Consent agenda tonight is A, bills to be allowed in the amount of $580,813.45. B is a council reappointment of Wayne Lewis to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term expiring on 10/1/22.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walgora.
Aye.
And Hess?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We move down to proclamations, and I do have one tonight for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is a proclamation declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels, and whereas domestic violence is widespread and affects over 4 million Americans each year, and whereas 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence, and whereas children that grow up in violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average, and whereas domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity, and whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this heinous crime, and whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy, services, and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, I, Matthew J. Walagora, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Alpena, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Alpena and urge the citizens to eliminate domestic violence from our community. Further, we reaffirm the commitment of the state of Michigan to reducing violence in our homes as well as on our streets. We urge all citizens to participate in the activities planned by domestic violence agencies, programs, and community organizations during this month. Citizens should also take this opportunity to educate themselves about the impact of domestic violence in Michigan and to become familiar with resources and programs available. This month, let us remember the victims of domestic violence, celebrate the survivors, and work together to eliminate violence from our community. And we have some members of Shores Alliance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about
We were
that.
just talking about
Just asking about that.
Where's our proof?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After the photo, but I'm.
You see it?
Good. All right, now we're down to report of officers. This is the first reading of the amendment to the city's retirement system ordinance. I didn't ask, but is that you?
Yes, that is me. Chapter 62, Article 3, Section 62-126 of the City Code of Ordinances defines the composition of the City Retirement Board of Trustees. Historically, the board has consisted of 6 members, 2 council members, the city manager, a police and firefighter member, and a general member, and a retiree. The actuarial reports for the system clearly differentiate 3 distinct groups within the plan: fire, police, and general. And the impact each has on the system and their respective costs to the city are also clearly stated. Yet, for whatever reason, the police and fire units are jointly represented on the Board of Trustees. Generally, the representative has been from the fire unit, often due to the larger number of firefighters vis-a-vis the police units. Recognizing that there may be differences in issues and priorities between the 2 groups, the Board of Trustees at its September 12th quarterly meeting voted unanimously to recommend the council the attached amendment to the retirement system ordinance establishing separate fire and police representatives on the board. Previously, all city police personnel were polled regarding their interest in having their own representative. All but 4 responded, and they unanimously supported the change. An additional benefit in making the change is that the board would have an odd number of trustees, which is preferable to the current even number. If approved by council, an election for police representative will be held in November, allowing the new member to participate in the December retirement board meeting. So you can do that.
All right.
If there are no questions, I guess.
This is ordinance number 19-450. It's an ordinance of the City of Alpena, Michigan, amending Chapter 62 Personnel, Article 3, Retirement System, Division 2, Board of Trustees by amending Section 62-126, be it ordained by the Municipal Council of the City of Alpena, State of Michigan, as follows. Section 62-126, Composition Administrative Authority generally, subsection A will read as follows. The general administration, management, and responsibility for the proper operation of the retirement system and for construing and making effective the provisions of this article is vested in the Board of Trustees. The board shall consist of 7 trustees as follows. 1 and 2 will remain unchanged. 3 will state a police officer member to be elected by the police officer members, which include both the command and patrol units. And the new number 4 will state a firefighter member to be elected by the firefighter members. Subsection B will state the trustees provided in subsections A, 3, 4, and 5 of this section shall be elected under such rules and regulations as the board shall from time to time adopt, and the provisions of this ordinance shall take effect 10 days after being adopted by the municipal council and duly published.
Any questions or issues? We'll bring that back a couple weeks from now.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Next up is new business, the SCBA Cylinders Bid. Chief Gorbush is coming up.
Good evening. On August 20th, sealed bids were opened for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus. 2 bids were submitted, both for Scott brand SCBAs. There are no local vendors for this equipment, and 11 bid notices were sent out. Due to budget constraints, we specified that the winner of the bid would provide financing so that the city receives all equipment this year, but pays in 2 annual installments to spread the cost over 2 budget cycles. The lowest responsible bidder was First Due Fire Supply in the amount of $166,432 for 23 SCBA packs and twice that many bottles. We had planned on $160,000 over 2 years, but in that this is the lowest bid, we'd like to increase the second year payment from the planned but not yet budgeted $80,000 to $86,432. This year's payment would remain at the budgeted $80,000. The reason for the increased pricing, the lower number of bidders, was that National Fire Protection Association Standard 1981 for SCBA was updated during the bidding process, requiring all manufacturers to update their products. We had hoped to get the last of the last standard. That didn't work out, so we ended up with the first of the new standard. All of our current SCBA are several cycles out of standard compliance and are having increased maintenance and reliability issues. All of our current compressed air cylinders are expired and should not be used. That happened in June. SCBA is literally a firefighter's portable life support system, enabling them to operate in highly toxic environments. This purchase was included in the CIP and current budget, and it was requested in federal grant requests for 6 years running before we finally relented and put it in the CIP. As fire chief, it is my recommendation and request that we award the bid for self-contained breathing apparatus to First Due Fire Supply in the amount of $166,432, with this year's installment being $80,000 from account 101-336-973-001, capital outlay.
Well, questions, Chief. What is the life expectancy, according to manufacturers, what is the life expectancy for the unit and for the bottles?
They're considered obsolete after 2 code cycles, and the bottles are 15 years.
15 years?
The reason that our grant kept getting turned down was twofold. Number one, they told us we had too much money. There were other communities that were harder off than Alpena, and I take that as a good thing. That means that we've done the right things, that we aren't quite as desperate as some of the others. The other thing is that the last 2 sets of SCBA were grant funded from the same source, and they just won't keep buying them for you forever.
Would it make sense in the future to do a portion of these per year and replace it in a cycle rather than all at once?
Yes, absolutely it would. We have worked on trying to do some bottles, but we weren't able to come out of CIP with enough to do packs. Packs are up to about 7,000 a piece now, and it just never made it through the funding cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, we, during the budget and, CIP and budget process, I suggested that we begin about 3 years before they really expire, of taking like a third of them and do them each year to reduce the cost, the annual cost. And then those that still have some left, they can be put in reserve until they're outdated and can't be used. So that way, it won't be such a big hit at one time.
Fortunately, at this point, we'll have about 10 years before we have to start that process for 15-year replacement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But he did do that, and we've been working together on that for a few years now.
Thank you.
I move we approve the bid for self-contained breathing apparatus to First Due Fire Supply in the amount of $166,432. Payments of $80,000 this year, and whatever the math is on the second one. I didn't write that down.
86,432.
86,432.
Just that simple, I know. 166. Not enough coffee today.
Second.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
And Johnson?
Yes.
Motion
Thank you,
carried.
council.
Thank you.
Next up is the water recycling plant water supply repair
The
bid.
city received and opened bids for the water recycling plant water supply repair. Last winter, we had the water supply line into the water recycling plant, which runs right up the main driveway. It failed, we got it repaired, it failed again, and we repaired it, and then later in the year, it failed again. So we took it completely out of service. It's been out of service all summer. What it does, it services the fire hydrant in the back, which is used by water tankers that come in to fill swimming pools, various contractors that get a supply of water, and Suez personnel to fill the Vector. The problem we ran into in looking at making this correction and repairing it is that driveway is crossed by a number of conduits, pipes, supply lines, et cetera. It's a real nightmare through there. So the first part of the summer, we tried to get contractors that would be willing to basically pull a crushing device through that pipe and pull a new pipe in place of it. We looked at that, we got one quote on that, and it was $15,000 to just pull that piece of pipe. We still had to dig and make the connection at one end, dig and make the connection at the other end, plus repair the driveway, put the curb and gutter, the paving back in. So it was not cost effective, in our opinion, by the time we piecemealed it together. So we put together a bid packet and sent it out to 13 different contractors and playing rooms, as well as posting it on the city's website. The only bid we received was from Hillman Construction, MacArthur Construction out of Hillman for $42,350. This is below our engineer's estimate. We had estimated it at $56,715, and quite honestly, we were really concerned that that was going to be enough, just because of the complexity of the work involved there. Funding for the repairs will be taken from the sewage fund for this project. Due to the limited scope of work, the complexity of the subsurface materials, multiple critical utility crossings, the proposed line location, the time of year, the limited response to the project is not unexpected. It's my recommendation to city engineer that the project be awarded to MacArthur Construction for the as tabulated bid unit prices totaling $42,350. And they would get that work completed yet this fall.
No questions.
None here. Thank you, Rich.
I move we approve the bid from MacArthur Construction for the water recycling plant water supply repair in the amount of $42,350.
Second.
Noack,
Yes.
Walagora,
Aye.
Hess,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
and Nielsen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I move we adjourn to closed session to discuss city manager contract negotiations.
Second.
Walagora,
Aye.
Hess,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
and Noack.
Yes.